Hi there and welcome to another ProBlogger video post. Today I want to talk you through the workflow that I use to get a post up on ProBlogger. I get a lot of questions about how do you take a post from an idea through to publishing it, because it doesn't just happen. And to have a bit of a think about your workflow and to develop some processes around it can be very helpful. So today I want to show you some screen captures taking you through a post that I wrote just a couple of days ago, which will give you some insight into how I do it, and hopefully that will inform how you do it also. On my desktop of my computer I have a folder called Post Ideas. Inside that folder I have two other folders, subfolders I guess you'd call them, one for ProBlogger and one for Digital Photography School. And inside each of those folders I then have a series of text documents which are my post ideas. And if I get an idea for a post, I'll simply open up a text document, write down the title or the idea or maybe the first couple of points of that post that I'm thinking about, and then I'll save it so that on a day that I have time to write posts, I can then open up that folder and find a whole heap of ideas that I could then develop. So earlier in the week I had an idea to write a post on how to be a ruthless blogger. It was just an idea that came to mind. I liked the word ruthless, so I wondered how I could develop that idea and wondered about how I could teach readers to become more efficient by being ruthless. At first it was really just an idea, and I wrote it down as a simple sentence: how to be a ruthless blogger. It was really just the idea for a title. I then developed that into, just very quickly in a few moments, I developed a number of points that I wanted to include in that article, and you can see some of those points there. Some of those points made it into the final article, some didn't. At this point I just closed up that document and saved it, and came back to it a couple of hours later. And I began to develop the idea further. I added the idea that perhaps I could do a follow-up post, something around how to be a warm, open or inclusive blogger, which I then developed into another post, but that's another story. And then I began to add some points possibly for that second article, but then went back to began to work on this idea of how to be a ruthless blogger. I added a sentence which I then used as part of my introduction to the article, added some more points, began to refine the article further and further, added a few points for that second article, and then really began to write the article. You'll see there a lot of the text that I have in this screenshot actually made it through to the final article. At this point I'm sitting down, I'm writing the post. Then I actually saved that text document and came back to it the following day. And the following day I imported that, just copied and pasted it over into Ecto. Ecto is the blog editing tool that I use to get posts from my desktop up onto my blog. You could then put it straight into the back of WordPress or your blogging platform if you don't use a blogging tool like Ecto. But at this point I'm adding the links, I'm beginning to format the post, making my subpoints bold. At this point I was thinking of posting it as a list, in a list format. Later on changed it to have heading tags for each of my main points. We continued to develop the article, expanding the introduction and the conclusion at this point. Then began to think about pictures. I wanted to have a header, so I went and found a picture on Flickr that I could use using the copyright that they had, and dragged that picture into ImageWell, which is a Mac tool that is very just quick and easy to change images. And so I added a title, I cropped the photo, I beefed up the saturation of it, and I imported it into Ecto. So at this point in Ecto I've got my introduction, I've got my title worked out, I've done a spell check now, I'm beginning to continuing to format the post, and then I publish it as a draft into the back end of ProBlogger. At this point I'm just doing a few last tweaks, choosing the category that I want to use, just rereading, proofreading, and thinking it through. Usually at this point I sit on the post for another few hours, if not a full 24 hours, because I usually have other posts lined up to go live. So over the next 24 hours, I come back to the post once or twice just to reread it, to think about, is there some way that I can add an example? Is there some other source that I can quote to add a bit of weight to the post? Is there some way that I can reformat it? And it was at this point that I changed my points to be header tags rather than as a major list. And then I hit publish and it went live on the blog. Usually at this point, things end. I don't really touch the post again. If I've made a mistake, if I think of some way to update the post, if someone else continues the conversation in a way that I want to highlight to my readers, I might do an update to the post, but generally it just sits there from this point on, and I guess the process of the post then goes into comment moderation and responding to comments. So that's just a really brief workflow that I use, largely based on text documents, having a folder for ideas, just to capture all those ideas, and that folder has hundreds of ideas in it. And really, for me, it's a process that can take as much as 2 or 3 days to get from start to finish. But it's something that I try and take my time on and I just keep coming back to, because I find that as I come back to a post over time, that's where it goes to another level. If I just beef out a post and put it out there, it's usually quite unthought through and unstructured. But the more time I give it, the more developed it is and the more mature, I guess, the post becomes. So I hope that helps you. I'd love to hear how you, the workflow that you use for your own posting, and if you'd like to leave a comment to talk us through how you do it, I'd love to read that. I'll see you next week on ProBlogger.